Well, hello, Mr. Willie.
You caught me dancing, Jennifer Cooper.
Not hard to do on BS Friday.
Ah, so we're kicking it off, and the joy of going live is we run with it. So I'm thrilled that you're here today. And where's everyone joining us from?
I know. Well, we know that we're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and don't forget the Facebook.
The Facebook machine, and we've got a ton of episodes in the bank. About 3 years worth, Jennifer.
It's hard to believe, and you haven't aged a bit, my friend.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry to tell you, you need glasses.
Well, hey, it's BS Friday. What can I say?
so um, this is pretty exciting because North America is about to change the way they are able to insulate.
It is pretty amazing. I mean, one thing that we've been so fortunate to see around the world is just different building products, different building materials, different methods of construction. And this hasn't been available here before.
No, it's great. I'm ready when you're ready. And all the folks listening, make sure you connect with people in the comments and connect with our speaker today.
Absolutely. So please welcome a new startup to the bunch, right? Jason Todd, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Perfect. Perfect. Listen, we're super excited about this, for many different reasons, right? Not just from a sustainability standpoint, but just the fact that the American building product market is finally catching up with some of the things that are happening around the world. So we're super excited to hear all about Jason Todd, hear all about your new startup, hear all about the new product launches. And we'd love for you to take the stage and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I want to apologize. We have had a few technical difficulties. My lighting is part of that, so I don't usually look this dim and dark. I'm quite a happy, chipper kind of guy, but maybe it'll auto adjust somewhere along the way. But Jason Todd, Director of Building Science and Industry Support with Timber HP, startup company. I've got a few slides that we can share if you like. Talk about our product, what we're after, what we're going towards in the market, where we're coming from, a little bit of origin story, I suppose. And I think in all of this, really what we're looking for is making something that seems unconventional, very conventional and acceptable. We're looking for widespread adoption. It's not a boutique product. It's not a specialty product. It's an everyday product with some really, really amazing benefits, not only for installers, but also for customers, for homeowners, and for the environment too. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we jump into that, let's hear a little bit more about your origin story. I mean, most particularly a photo that I think really went viral and spawned tons of sales was a picture of you fashioning a hat saying, "Ask me about embodied garment." Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, that was a few years ago. I mean, I've had a few roles since then, very interested in the carbon story and paying attention to carbon. We've had a very interesting shift over the years. I got into the business as a remodeler, as a contractor, wore a few different hats even before that. I was a professional brewer for a little bit, different kind of science, same idea, paying attention to details. There we go. And, I think that talking about carbon, it was the Carbon Leadership Forum, I started paying attention, that sort of thing. But, worked my way through a remodeling contractor, an installer of material, worked for a home performance company for a number of years here in Maine. Sort of cut my teeth on fixing buildings that way and some commercial things as well, air sealing and retrofit works for all types of constructions. We usually don't start off on the right foot, and we kind of do things maybe a little quick, a little hasty, or just focused on cost and not all of the air tightness in a building or insulation levels, indoor air quality. Number of years at various organizations, talking to HVAC contractors, bringing building envelope science to HVAC installers, to being able to expand their business within their markets, working with the same customer base. But I think I was wearing that hat when I was a business development and territory rep for Green Fiber cellulose insulation. Excellent cellulose product. Great carbon story there as well, and they are a national outfit. I think they've just grown a little bit more, gotten a little bit bigger. Pandemic hit, things changed, didn't travel as much. Ended up finding some local work with an architecture firm, doing more research, and that was really exciting. Enjoyed that. Back to the carbon, looking at CLT construction and adding insulation to that. Good stuff there. Again, looking at retrofit work too, but moving into the new construction realm at that point. And this opportunity came up following, not too far from home, about an hour away. Turns out that this was where my grandfather grew up about a few generations back. Ended up going to UMaine in chemistry in 1926, left home, never really came back, moved elsewhere. But lo and behold, here I am, found myself working in the same town that he grew up in. It's a great story, a great connection. And there are so many more connections with the folks here, and the deep bench that we have of engineers and architects and specifiers and all these people that are coming together to make this company work. And lots of great connections right here in town. So another part of the whole story is economic revitalization, is bringing towns back, bringing employment back. And we can get into a little bit of that detail as well. But that's where I come from, the short version.
That's amazing. I
but,
mean,
good stuff.
Talk about, new meaning to the circular economy. Who would have thought that, multiple generations would circle back to the same area?
Yeah.
What is your grandfather's name, Jason?
Russell Look.
Okay, so this starter origin, as you called it, on Russell is like now the highlight. I love it. And then you immediately brought us into the fact that the rest of the team, right? Everyone sitting in the various stages bring their own level of that. That is a really cool team. This brewing that you do, right? You've been ready to deliver a good tasting message for a long time here, and I'm enthused because we're days away from this launch. I mean, you guys, in a way, are viewed as the new kid on the block, but you're a collection of these experiences. And you know that phrase, nothing happens till it all happens at once. And it's all happening at once again in this facility that was roaring and is roaring again. Jason, this is so awesome.
Yeah, it is really neat stuff. I mean, the fact that this mill where I'm at right now was shuttered in 2016. The engineers, the operators, all those folks were told that was it. It's time to go home, shuttering the door. But there was hope, I think, that there might be a restart at some point. And those engineers took great care in shutting down the facility. They took care of the fire suppression, the plumbing, the electrical. And lo and behold, we didn't realize this when we bought the building, but at least one engineer came with it. And Marty Troy, our electrical engineer, stepped up and said, you guys are going to need a little bit of help. I'm in. And he and a few others started consulting, and then now have come on full-time out of retirement as paper engineers, which is a very technical, high-speed, accurate process. They've come back and have combined with consultants from overseas, German engineers from the original equipment manufacturers, And those folks are here on the campus as well, working in I think almost around the clock. It feels like sometimes getting things ready to go, and we'll be grinding up some wood chips towards the end of this month, and very excited to get going.
So that's
Living.
amazing. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, tell us about Timber HP. I mean, how did it start? Like, what inspired you guys, or the team, I should say?
Yeah, I think that the Timber HP origin story sounds a little bit like a bad joke. Is a PhD materials chemist and an architect walked into a room, and they were looking for a way to bring a product that they saw that had quite a long track record in Europe. 20 years, actually. They've been producing wood fiber overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And that 20 years, they've managed to refine that product, but they haven't figured out how to ship it overseas any cheaper. Lo and behold, that's changed the same. So a lot of folks, including this architect, Matt O'Malia, one of the founders, you've talked to recently, Mark, I believe, Opal Architecture. He and other forward-thinking individuals have been importing wood fiber. They know it's the right product to be using. They know that it works, that it has great performance attributes, that it's the right kind of material for the long term. We're talking about a bio-based product. We're not reliant on petroleum based products and oils as much. The manufacturing is pretty straightforward. So it's thermomechanical pumping. We add a little bit of heat, we add a little bit of steam, we add a lot of electricity. And so that electricity comes right off the river that's right outside my window right now. It's springtime here in Maine, and the snow caps are starting to melt and the water is flowing, and I think there's excess in capacity. We'll be tapping into that behind the grid here, relying on the system that was here in place for the mill. We've got more than enough electric capacity that's hydro right here to handle all of the electrical side, and we'll end up using some heat sources that maybe the next plant will be a little bit more progressive. Progressive in manufacturing tends to be pretty expensive. There's a $130 million project that's sitting right here. So we, I think we'll come to innovation over the years. We've got a lot of really exciting folks that are making this all work. The other half of the team is Joshua Henry. He's our president. He's a PhD materials chemist, sometimes describes himself as a recovering academic. He understands stuff on a smaller level when it comes to putting things together, if you will. I think his background had a lot to do with solar in particular. But those two met and started talking about bringing this wood fiber over and looking at the hurdles, and they tried to find somebody that would make it here, and nobody stepped up. So they were left as the ones that would bring it here. And so that's been a long road. Since 2017, they've been working on that. And I think in earnest, year and a half, we've been really charging forth, got all our funding under our belt, got all the equipment in place. That's being installed, and the bat line and the board line are being put together right now. But we're about ready to start making fiber, which is the baseline for our first product and the baseline for all of our products down the road, honestly.
Perfect. I think Mark and I have a ton of questions. My sense is that, your presentation will answer a bunch of them, but maybe we can hit the highlights in the presentation and leave some time for Q&A in the end. But one of my big burning questions already you answered, which was how you're leveraging natural resources to really cut down on the cost of manufacturing wood fiber product, because that is one of the downsides to this, that others bump into, is the high cost of manufacturing on a product like this. So
yeah. And I think that's something that's interesting with the difference between the European product and our product is, the cost of wood chips, the raw material, is higher overseas. The cost of energy is higher overseas.
Right.
We have the ability to come at the market not as a premium product, but something that is more accessible to so many more people. And that's really exciting. And I'll say it now, I'll say it again in the presentation. We don't cut down trees to do this.
Right.
That's a real critical part of it. CLT works great for a lot of things. It's great to replace steel and concrete, but we do have to pay attention to the origin story of that tree and that raw material. And the same goes for ours. We start with wood chips. We start with a byproduct of other industries here in Maine, pine mills. These are the chips that went to the paper mills.
Mhm.
Those paper mills are closing. There's a huge void right now. Really good material, that it's just wood chips, pine chips, spruce, pine, fir. That's the focus. But it's waste wood, and that's really the important part of it. There is so much. I would say an overabundance of residuals right now in the market because of the decline of paper. And this is something that can go to biomass. It can be burned, but really, if you can lock that up in a building, now you're locking up carbon. Now you're using underutilized products here, domestically made, for a product that is domestic. You're not importing parts of it to bring manufacturing here. Not importing sand, for example, which some materials use, chemicals from overseas in order to make certain spray foams. So I'm excited. There's so many great things about the product, and the fact that it's made right here in Maine, supporting folks right here in Maine, and available to folks nationally.
Yeah, strategically. So for folks, if you could pick a perfect destination to start this company, this is the perfect destination because of the fiber source, because of the community that's lived and breathed this, right, for generations. And let's just say SPF, it's not just for breakfast anymore, right? It's perfect. I love that the blown in is where you decided collectively to go first, and then that ramp into bat and board to have the trifecta of goodness for our buildings is perfect. And let's not keep them waiting. Let's scroll through the slides, and Jason, the ones you want to stop at, highlight, right? This is your baby, and the other ones we'll just leave out there as teasers that people can take all the screenshots they want and tag Timber HP on all your social media channels.
Great. So this is we'll modify our product knowledge deck. We do this on a regular basis. I got a slide at the end. The really important thing here is just, Timber HP, what's in a name? What does that HP mean? And it means different things to different people. First and foremost, high performance. That doesn't mean that it's the highest numbers on the scale necessarily. Performance is something that's a lot more dynamic. It's how you put things together to make it work. But high performance, the building envelope, the thermal, acoustic, all of these things that are important to us, whether or not we know it, they matter the most. And they matter the most to us. And that's our baseline. That's where we start. And we can't forget that it's about a healthy planet and it's about healthy people. Those aren't second and third. They're woven together. But we want to start with that high performance conversation because that's how we get out there in the market. That's how we get to those folks and really make a big difference in things. You can scroll down. And, I'll just on this slide give you a sense on the right, like where do you put this stuff? There's all those merits on the left, but we're really above grade. We are all climate zones, vapor open, continuous insulation, cavity fill, attic fill. You could put this in a floor over a crawl space. You can get it into basements and below grade spaces, but we want to make sure that we're addressing humidity and moisture concerns first. With any product, that's what you need to do. You can scroll down. And just to give you a sense, this is our rollout. We will be doing that loose timber fill coming up really soon. We should be firing things up by the end of the month and have certified product within a month or two of that. The bat's coming out about July or so. We'll go through that same process. And then in October, we'll be working on the board. We'll start with a square edge. The forming for the tongue and groove will come in 24. That's going to be a great addition as well. And I would, we'll scroll down. You can scroll through that one and the next one. Essentially, there's a huge track record of products that are out there. You know, it's a billion-dollar industry in Europe. These are some of the folks that represent that. And it's great stuff. It's just expensive to get here.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things. I mean, the Pavitex specifically is something that we saw throughout Europe, especially, you know, in both volumetric modular construction and panelization. That's happening over there, and it dovetails to the product. I mean, the joinery is amazing. It's beautiful the way that it comes together. There is a density to it.
Yes.
But it feels like, you know, that gets worked into the plan and is accounted for. But it's a really beautiful product.
Yeah, great stuff. Great manufacturers, beautiful operations out there. They're doing it right, and they're maximizing the wood products in Europe, and that's it. And, you know, the big takeaway here is that we focus on FSC certified. We focus on, and that's easy here in this state. We're up in the left corner of some of that greenery there, maybe not quite into it, but the raw material is readily available. We've had 6 paper operations close in the last 10 years. There's so much available to us. And this is the same case in many other states. And if you scroll down, you know, we are looking at, like I said, the waste material of lumber processing. It's the byproduct, and we get piles of that. And lumber yards used to have an outlet for that. They used to be able to sell that to paper mills, those chips. And so we're filling a void. We're increasing their revenue, which is important to these local companies. Supporting other industries. That's the case for Michigan. It's the case for Wisconsin. It's the case for the Pacific Northwest, and other venues down south as well. Wherever you'll see in the next couple of slides, wherever there's a concentration of manufacturing, it will line up with the concentration of forest products. So, you know, it's a sort of a no-brainer, if you will, that we are starting here in Madison. And the next slide will show you that we're looking at a second location in the Pacific Northwest. I think we've secured that. And there are other, we've got sites on other states as well. I think biting off 2 plants as a startup is enough. And we'll have quite a few years of busyness, but given the response that we've gotten from folks, the demand, the request is very strong. And I think this is going to be a great number of years that we'll have under our belt with these first 2 locations.
So with that, you know, while we're on the slide, can you talk about distribution for a minute and the markets that you plan to serve, you know, in version 1 and version 2?
Yeah, I mean, that northeast darker blue section is the immediate reach for us. That's a easy stretch for us. The lighter blue is extended, and that will, of course, extend further with, you know, specialty considerations. We get further away, shipping increases, pricing changes. We are partnering with national distribution. We're partnering with the buy groups that supply lumber yards. And I would expect to have product on the West Coast before we have locations on the West Coast, because the demand is there. And right now, there's another hop across the Atlantic to get that product from Europe. And so we're certainly going to be much less expensive as European import brought over to the West Coast. I think we'll still be able to be competitive with other conventional materials on the market. fiberglass, rock wool, cellulose.
Jason, when you say that, I'm trying to process. Do you mean the blown and bat, or are you speaking to the board, or is it really the trifecta?
As far as distribution goes,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
yeah, I mean, right now we are starting with the blown in.
Right.
That product will be available first, and it's a great place for us to start, to be honest.
Yep. Totally.
Simplest of all three. But all of those products, I think the West Coast, you're going to see more board than anything else, just because it just works better shipping.
That's why I asked, and thinking that was my guess. But hearing from you,
looking to do
I
mixed
know your
loads and that sort of thing as well. And I'd expect the fill to head out that direction, especially as contractors start asking for it, or specifiers, architects. And we've gotten that request from all over. Strong interest down in Texas, Pacific Northwest, most parts of Canada. I mean, these are folks that are really thinking a lot about higher performance, but also higher energy costs. You know, we got more heating degree days up there. There's reasons to insulate more, and so they tend to be innovators in that respect. But
totally, the marketplace is a big chatter about this, right? They're excited about it. Our colder days are colder, our hotter days are hotter. This is going to satisfy both of those needs. And yes, I can name several people in Canada and Texas and the like that want it. Like your names are spoke about, not behind closed doors, like openly, like I can't wait. Right? Yeah. It's really exciting. And I'm glad you answered that. I mean, you're so deep into this about the board being distributed, probably reaching California first. Totally agree with that statement.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got a path forward, not just for, I've got this one large job, can we get a trailer out there, but warehousing ready to go. There's certainly demand for all the products. And I think we are developing some really strong distribution channels with some variety in those channels too, because we want to be able to meet contractors where they're at. And those products, are going to be a little bit of a difference for them, a little bit of change. But once they start using it, once they see our instructional videos and documentation, they're going to say, oh, this is just like what I do already. And that's all we ask. All we ask is just that familiarity.
You're satisfying the operational carbon by the insulation standards and the value that adds to the resistance, but also the whole embodied carbon thing is on the minds of people planning, people making product selections, people designing their assemblies. So when they have this as an option, that's the first box they want to check. I mean, this is not something that we don't know. That's the first box they want to check is, how is my operational carbon? How is my embodied carbon? Those are front and center conversations all over the industry. We heard it big at the NAHB's IBS and all of the conferences we've been attending. That is the topic, and here it is.
Yeah. And operational is something that we've been talking about, even if we didn't know it. We were talking about energy efficiency. We were talking about thermostats and setbacks and trying to reduce how much we've been doing this since the 70s, right? Since the 80s. And that's by default the operational side of it. We were talking about energy, not carbon, but that translates really well to most folks. They get it. Like 100%. I'm not sure how much the embodied carbon of the material translates. And that's a new conversation. And the awesome thing about wood is that it's about 50% carbon. We're not doing much more than taking chips and making fiber.
So with that, I mean, everything you're both saying is absolutely true, but for a lot of people who want to get into the high performance space and may not be there quite yet, they may not even know to ask for this type of product. So from a value proposition and from a distribution perspective, they're not seeing it on the shelves at their local lumber supply store. They're not being educated about it. So is there a 30-second or is there a slide that kind of shows the value proposition of this product compared to, materials that they may already be using, like hemp or spray foam or whatever it might be?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know if I can fit it on one slide. I mean, I've got one in the deck towards the end that is the carbon, talking about carbon and how we're really just avoiding that decomposition. We're locking it up. I think I took a couple out just to try and make it a little bit smaller. But when you compare price-wise, if dollar per square foot or cubic foot or whatever it is, we can be competitive on that front. Everyone understands the fundamental aspect of the product. 95% of this is wood. If you look at the timber fill, one slide down, you can see the same kind of stuff that I was showing you. It is fiberized and a chemical that's familiar to folks that already know cellulose, boric acid, fairly innocuous, flame retardant, pest deterrent, gets us to the Class A flame spread, mold resistance because of that. The bat is nice and sturdy. It's something that that a homeowner could install, that a carpenter or an installer, someone that understands hand tools, maybe power tools, that bat installed is tight. It fits. It meets a grade 1 really easily. You get that thing snug in there and it's not going to budge. There's no slumping. There's no sagging because of the sturdiness of it. And you can see this is a video usually, but that Class A, you can find this, I think, on YouTube, Vimeo. We've got our merits slides up there, some of the testing slides up there. We torch that, not a problem. Continuous insulation is big here in the Northeast, certainly is in the colder climate zones. Good stuff, durable. Those are chunks of wood at one job site. I believe that might be Gutex product, but that was wrapping the exterior of the building. The trades were using those steps for months in the mud season. And you can see that they hold up. I mean, the stuff's sturdy, vapor open, but yet hydrophobic because we add a little paraffin in the board. You can scroll down a little bit more. We talked about market position and where it goes. Again, really about familiarity, ease of use, and I think the vapor open thing's a big selling point. I think some mineral fiber folks have been doing a really good job talking about vapor open assemblies. We have a climate positive solution for vapor open assemblies, and I think that's the distinction.
Yep.
People know that stuff gets wet. Actually, that next slide, Jennifer, is pretty good. You can see that little graphic down on the bottom right. We generate a lot of moisture on the inside of our buildings. And we use some pretty fancy European membranes and tapes in order to manage airflow and still allow vapor out. And that's great. I can actually build that assembly without membranes. I can paint a piece of sheetrock, and I can insulate the exterior of the cladding, wrap that up with a rain screen, and I've got very little additional material in that assembly above and beyond wood products. And that to me is pretty exciting. I really love that. I love the belt and suspenders approach of a product that meets all of the health and safety merits, that's not toxic to the installer or the occupants, but then also helps keep the building itself healthy by allowing moisture that does get into the cavity or into the board in the exterior to dry naturally over time.
Yeah, I love this slide. I mean, I always find it so fascinating that, so few really understand how moisture moves through products. So when you take a slide like this, it makes it so easy to understand, like, that moisture has to go somewhere, and what happens to it. And I also think, especially from a renovation standpoint, when you think about the DIYers out there, especially as it relates to any overhead installations, I still have these visions as a little girl of that pink insulation falling into my father's, open mouth as he's struggling to insulate the top of the, attic or garage or whatever it was we were working on at the time. And this seems so logical.
This is the only material that you'll find at a trade show booth that's sitting out on the table and everybody can pick up.
Yeah.
It's not in a plexiglass box. It's not just a picture. It's the real stuff. And, this is just not that much of a problem. You could eat it. I'm not sure that'd be recommended unless you need a lot of fiber in your life, but there's really nothing bad about it. And that goes for all of the products. So health and safety, we're going back to the environment. We're going back to the people component of that as well. Really insulation for all seasons. I think this is an interesting conversation. We can look at the next slide and I can describe this real briefly, but essentially we've got a box with 3 different products, a foam board with a higher R value, mineral fiber with a little bit higher R value, and a fairly dense wood fiber board. We're familiar with R value as a metric. It doesn't actually perform the same way in the field as it does in a lab test, but you get a number from it and you can buy it by the number if you want. But when you talk about the other side of things, when we're talking about a heating season, that's one thing. You're talking about a cooling season, that's another thing. And summer heat protection is huge. The density of the product, the heat capacity of the product is higher than any other material on the market. And you can look at the color matched lines, the blue being the board, the yellow being the fiber, and the grayer one, the mineral fiber. And over time, with heat applied to all 3 of these, the core temperature stays much lower when you're talking about wood fiber, delaying that buildup of heat, which is really a pretty awesome thing. Carbon insulation is a huge area where we can improve. Concrete is too. We use a lot of concrete, and there are solutions, and CLT may be one of those, but insulation is a huge part of the built environment that is, with our products, a 1-for-1 replacement that all of a sudden changes that carbon story immensely.
Amazing. I would say, Jason, we're already inviting you and your team back for more wood fiber insulation chats. Jennifer, obviously I'm a huge fan of wood. I love that this is now part of the conversation, part of the planning stage. And if you folks aren't connected with the wonderful team and the people making Timber HP happening, please do that and specify and install this on all your projects.
Yeah, and just a few shout outs to everybody that we were flashing on the screen. Thank you everybody for tuning in today. And, Jason, how can people find you, find the product? Where do they go? Is it coming to my house? You're shipping it directly to me? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, we're going through the usual channels, lumber yards, distributors, the folks that you normally get insulation products from would be the first point of contact. You can reach out to us directly at info@timberhp.com. We've got a few folks inside sales and technical support. They're gearing up and getting ready for the tsunami of interest and phone calls that'll be coming in. We've got folks specifying the product even though we haven't made it. We're confident that we know this will work. We've seen the track record, and I would say go to our website. We've got a number of social platforms as well, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I think we even have TikTok. I'm not quite sure how to operate it, but a little bit of everything. Info@timberhp.com. Timberhp.com is our website.
Perfect, perfect. And how about in person? Will we shaking hands anywhere? Any shows? Any trade shows? Any
We just ran through the gauntlet. The whole we were at the Mass Timber. We were at Nessie. We're going to be Greenbuild, AIA. You got anything else? Installation Contractors of America, and I'm sure there will be plenty more where that came from. We're just starting to gear up.
Perfect. Well, think about IWBC and that mix happening. What is it, Mark? This September in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, in September. I think that you guys are there too. I looked at your future events list.
Yes. Yep.
And you're right, Jennifer. Like and that's the interesting thing. You're gonna find Timber HP at these performance-based ones and at the standard construction ones that we go to, because it's a bountiful amount of options there. So excited for you, and I love the story about your grandfather Russell. Right?
Yeah.
This was great. Thank you to the folks of Maine that allowed this to be part of that facility once again. It's a great lifeblood to see community rally together to support innovation. And, it's a windfall for our industry to see this innovation finally happen in North American soil. So our friends in Canada and all around the States, check them out. And we're glad that you could share this. We're really excited for you guys, Jason.
It's great. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Look forward to the next time.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Jason, and to everybody out there. Definitely thank you for tuning in. And as always, we ask you to subscribe. Obviously, we can't do this without all of the support from all of you. And Jason, you stay right there. We're going to come right back to you. But Mark, have a blessed weekend, and we'll see you next BS Friday.